Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon to those of you here live. I really appreciate it. Very grateful for you guys showing up today to learn how we can all improve our thinking in ways that can change our lives, change how we communicate, change how we make our decisions in life and business. So thank you. And hello to everyone on the recording and watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you are putting into this. All right. Now, before we get into this, I do want to kind of make sure we're on the same page on some of this stuff. So I want to make sure I'm not the crazy one. Now, maybe I am. You know how it goes, right? If you walk into a room and you think everybody else is crazy, maybe you're the crazy one. Or you poker players out there, if you go to a table and you don't know who the fish is, guess who the fish is, right? So, all right. Have you guys noticed some disorder in today's world? Am I crazy? Is that just me? You guys notice that too? Mark's like, nah, what are you talking about? Disorder in the world today? That's crazy, right? Crazy talk. I know. I get it. Bob, yeah, chaotic.
Questions.
Have you guys noticed that there's a little bit of heartache? Maybe yourself, maybe some friends, some family. Is it just me? Or is that happening out there right now? I don't think it's
Yep,
just me.
an inability to navigate differences. Yes.
Yes, Scott, absolutely. Right. Right. And Scott, I love you're on. Scott and I are great examples of people who share common values. We disagree on lots of surface issues, but we share common values. We want to bring love and healing to the world. And guess what? If you share those values, oh boy, can you do a lot of work together, right? The other stuff, the other disagreements melt away if you share those common values. Have you noticed that friends and family are having a hard time talking about important issues? Anybody knows this? Is that just
Yep,
me?
yep.
Scott, you've seen it.
Oh yeah, I'm in the middle of it.
You're in the middle of it. Yeah. Last week, my wife and her mom were on the phone. Guess what happened? They started screaming at each other and hung up in anger. True story, right? Now, a couple days later, they reconciled. They both apologized for their part in it. Everything's cool. But it doesn't always end so smoothly, does it? Sometimes that can linger, right? It can literally ruin relationships. It's not okay, right? It happens. I don't blame anyone necessarily, but it's also the situation's not okay. Now, what if instead we can turn that disorder into some productive direction, right? We could channel the energy properly. What if we could take all that heartache and create sort of a much more unifying harmony out of it, based in our common values and the common things we want to achieve in the world? Do you guys like that? That'd be all right. We could
That'd be
find
all
a
right with
mode of
me. I'll
thought.
go for that.
Scott's like, cool, I'll do it. He's on board. Yeah.
It, Ian, I still
Mark,
don't see that it's recording.
is it not recording?
Am I missing it?
It says it's recording to me, so I'm gonna trust it.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. Hopefully it
Very good.
is. If it's not, it's not. These are first world problems. Right? Any more with this tech stuff? We tend to, you guys ever get stressed out by this tech stuff sometimes when it glitches? Yeah. There's a billion people in the world who don't know what they're eating for dinner tonight. Right. So I always think about that. Anytime I start to get stressed about tech stuff glitching, I think I know what I'm eating for dinner tonight and I know where I'm sleeping tonight. Oh, yes. Yes, Scott. Infinite diversity, infinite combinations. Dig it. There's some Star Trek in there too. Right? Yes. Susan, the Indian food, right? The Indian food's a little less harmony for me today. Yeah. It was good. I tell you, delicious. What if we could end the blame game, heal this divide, and communicate productively? Now, do you guys ever feel like when you watch people blame each other, your side started it? No, your side started it. Is it like watching children argue about who's at fault? Right? Those of you that have kids and for me, it's more grandkids now, right? Watching my grandkids argue. She started it. No, he started it. And I have to say, I don't care. I don't care who started it. I'm going to end it. Right? Doesn't matter who started anymore. We all have to take responsibility and end it. So, sorry, I'm going to be sipping a lot of tea and ginger ale. It's all good. We can do it. Oh, Scott, yeah. Grown-up clients, right? I know. Yeah, my wife's a therapist. She sees it all the time, right? Sometimes she has to decompress by venting to me after she watches a couple in therapy. Billy, like the debate, right? Anybody watch the debate? This is the problem. Yeah. So given the problems in the world, wouldn't we prefer to have a mode of thinking that makes sense of all the chaos and change and gives you peace? Right? Can you guys type peace in the chat? Thumbs up will also do it. See several of you with thumbs up, right? Type peace in the chat if you'd like a mode of thinking that makes sense of the chaos and gives you peace. Good. I love it. It's not just me. Not just me. A mode of thinking that helps us feel confident even when we don't know and understand things. Can you type confidence in the chat? Type confidence in the chat. Turns out there is a mode of thinking that does all of this. Awesome. A mode of thinking that gives you a context for solving any sort of problem. Type context in the chat, right? I used to run this webinar with something where I talked about the outside context problem. You guys ever heard of the outside context problem? The classic example of the outside context problem is you're a native tribe living peacefully on a beautiful, lush tropical island, and then suddenly an iron-hulled battleship shows up off your shore. It's an outside context problem. Have we had some outside context problems in our society over the last 10 years? Yeah. Shows you how to handle disagreement without feeling under attack. Would you like to be able to disagree respectfully without feeling like you're attacking the other person or they're attacking you? Wouldn't that be great? Can't we just talk about what marginal tax rates should be without feeling like we hate each other? I mean, come on. So for those of you who are new, a lot of familiar faces, which is great. For those who have not worked with me before, I'm an attorney. I have 25 years experience in law and politics. I've worked for elected Republicans. I've worked for elected Democrats. So I've been on the staffs of both parties, both at the party level and at the elected official level. And so I've seen what happens when they're able to work together to accomplish great things. I worked for a Republican congressman once, and we got together and co-sponsored a bill with a Democrat senator and accomplished great things when you find common values, right? So it can be done. I have a lot of training in logic and critical thinking. So my undergraduate degrees are in engineering and political science. Scored in the 98th percentile in the LSAT, which is basically just a day-long thinking test. I went to a law school that taught values-based thinking. So anybody ever seen The Paper Chase or any of these law school movies where at the beginning they sit you down and they say, look to your left, look to your right. Of the three of you, only one of you will graduate. The other people are your competition. You guys seen that before? So I went to UC Davis here in California, Northern California. On our first day of school, they sat us down. They said, look to your left, look to your right. Of the three of you, we expect all three of you to graduate because we weeded people out in the admissions process. So if you got in, you should be graduating. And we want all three of you to graduate, and we want you to help each other and be a team and work together to do it. Right. So, and of course, the people sitting to my left and right on that day of orientation ended up being my best friends for 3 years in law school because we took that very seriously and helped each other through it. Way better way to do things. I spent a career in law and politics, and I am now an enthusiastic teacher of values-based thinking, as I like to call it. So what are we going to talk about today? Why we think backwards from my perspective and how fear takes control of our thoughts and creates division and polarization. We're going to talk about how we can correct that by thinking from our values first. We'll talk later. I'm going to talk about the difference between what I call top-down thinking and bottom-up thinking. 3 paths to improve that thinking, to make better sense of the world and work with our values. So we're going to understand how powerful it can be to say, I don't know, and to admit that we don't know things. We're going to talk about drawing conclusions from better quality evidence. So we're going to start with saying, I don't know, and then make up our mind only when we get good evidence that convinces us. And how we can free our identities from our beliefs. Because when our identities get caught up in the things we say and the things we believe, it gets pretty nasty. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, a unique opportunity to learn a holistic mode of thought, sort of a single holistic, comprehensive mode of thought that makes sense of the world, helps you communicate better, and creates a great community of heart-centered change makers. And for those who stay until the end, I'm going to have a free gift, if you can stay till the end, to help you stay positive even when you're disagreeing with negative people, which is a few tips to help with that. Always good when you encounter someone who's in a negative state of mind. Right? So let's get into it. Do you guys think our brains evolved? Go back 100,000 million years. Did our brains evolve to analyze the world calmly and objectively? What do you think? Is that how our brains evolved? Probably not. I see a lot of shaking heads here. Not so much, right? Did our brains evolve to make a good, solid business decision? What do you think? Is that how we evolved? Making good business decisions? Or, and Scott, you saw it. Second, or was it Scott? No, Mark. Yeah, Mark and Scott, you guys both saw it, right? Oh, let's see. Scott's going to be talking about this on Sunday. Did our brains evolve to survive, to pass on DNA? Right? That's what our brains were made to do deep down, survive to pass on that DNA. And so think like your ancestors long time ago in the jungle, the savannah, the desert. The unknown and the unexplained was always a potential threat because you evolved for survival. And how did you respond to an unknown threat? What do you guys think? How did you respond to an unknown threat 100,000 years ago? Did you sit there and analyze it calmly and rationally and collect all the evidence before taking any action? Is that how you responded? Yeah, Bob Washington, kill or run. Yeah, kill it, then ask questions, right? What's the old phrase? Kill them and let God sort it out. Fight, flight, or free, fight or flight. Yeah, you guys get it, right? That's how we responded. Those are fear-based response mechanisms. Fight, flight, fright. Oh, it's funny. I wrote fright. I meant fight or freeze. These are fear responses. So is now fear getting in the way? Because we're descended from all the fear-based people who survived. The folks who acted out of fear survived. Does that fear get in the way when we try to make good decisions and communicate on complex issues? What do you think? Does it get in the way now by having a fear response? Do you think fear makes us stand our ground and not admit to being wrong? Or does fear help us realize when we're wrong and change our minds? What do you think? Does fear help you change your mind and say, oh my gosh, I was wrong? Thank you for pointing that out. Or does fear make you want to say, no, screw you, I'm right, you're wrong? I think we kind of know intuitively where the fear response leads us on that. So what if instead of starting with fear and standing our ground, we could instead go back to our basic values and think about what we want to achieve? Does that seem like a more productive way of thinking? Right. I tend to think of when we start with fear and stand our ground, that's top-down thinking. I'm going to start with something I think I know and some position I think I believe and hold, and I'm going to hold to it no matter what because it feels bad to be wrong. That's fear. That's top-down thinking. Bottom-up thinking is going back to your basic fundamental values and thinking, what is it I'm actually trying to achieve in the world and how do I get there? Right. So we're going to talk a lot today about this sort of bottom-up thinking. How it's a much more foundational way to do it. So a few things I want to get into. We talk about the term skepticism and cynicism, and often these terms are used interchangeably in society. Personally, I think they're very different. And I like to be clear about definitions and what we're talking about. So when I talk about skepticism in my mind, this is a definition I use. It simply means you want to believe more true things and fewer false things. That's it. That's all skepticism means. I'm trying to look for a mode of thought that helps me believe more true things and fewer false things. We all believe some true things and some false things. That's normal. But we would like to maximize the number of true things we believe and minimize the number of false things we believe. Cynicism, on the other hand, there's a cynical kitty cat right there. We've all seen some cynical cats. I have a bunch of them in my house. Cynicism means a mistrust or a distrust of authority. So in cynicism, you're going straight to, I believe it or I don't believe it. So what would you guys rather be using these definitions? They're not the only way to define these terms, but these are definitions I use when I teach values-based thinking. Would you rather be skeptical, where you are thoughtful and trying to sort through truth from fiction in good faith? Or would you rather be cynical, where you immediately assume something is right or wrong? You guys let me know. What would you rather be? Drop it in the chat. Would you rather be skeptical or cynical if these are the definitions we're using? What do you think? Yeah, see a bunch of skepticals. Mark, you like the definition? Yes, that to me is proper skepticism, right? Scott, I love it. Reality is more important than what you believe. Yeah, Scott, you know, I hate to tell you or the rest of you, reality doesn't care what you believe, right? If you believe you can jump off a 100-story building and fly, you are free to try that. And gravity might have something to say about that. So how does this work in a practical matter, right? So if skepticism, if we're just saying that just means I want to believe more true things and fewer false things, that's healthy critical thinking. But in a practical sense, what does that mean? How do I do that? And there's a number of ways to do it, but I'm going to start with just the basic rule of thumb where it all begins, which is you start with saying, I don't know, is your default position in any question. Anytime somebody raises an issue or makes a claim or makes an assertion, you are allowed to say, I don't know. You do not immediately have to agree or disagree. In fact, you should not immediately agree or disagree. Your default position in every single question should be, I don't know the right answer. Start there. Start with saying, I don't know. And then you make up your mind and take a position only when you see convincing evidence. And we'll get into more of that later. Now, is it hard sometimes to say, I don't know? What do you guys think? Because I see a lot of nodding heads and smiles and laughs, right? Yeah, it's hard. Now, why is that hard? As a kid, especially for those of us who grew up in Western society, as a kid, what happened to you when you said, I don't know? Let me know. Did you have a good experience, a bad experience? What did the adults do and say around you? What did the other kids do and say around you? When you were a kid and you said, I don't know, what happened? What was your experience? No problem, Tom. Good to see you. Thank you. When you guys were kids, what happened when you said, I don't know? Type it in the chat or just come on. Ridicule. Yeah. Getting in trouble. Maybe else. What happened when you said, I don't know as a kid? Was it a good experience? Negative experience? Some people did have positive experiences, and that's good. Felt ignorant, told that you're stupid. Yeah. Not encouraged. Yeah. Not favorable. Absolutely, Kristen. So when we were kids and we said, I don't know, it was not great. So it was sort of emotionally beaten out of us that it's bad to say, I don't know. For some of us, it might have even been physically beaten out of us. right? Smacked around. So that was trained out of us. But now as adults, we have to retrain ourselves. So instead of feeling embarrassed or stupid and not knowing, what if we could draw power from that? What if saying I don't know was a powerful experience? Because as soon as you think you know something, you might be stuck in that thing you think you know. No matter how wrong you are, it's real hard to get out of it if you think you know it. But if you're willing to say, I don't know the answer, then the world is your oyster, right? The world opens up to you. You can go anywhere you want. You have all the power and all the agency and all the choice. Yeah, Billy, I love it. As a junior officer, you learn to say, I don't know, but I'll find out, right? And isn't that what we do in our our workshops and stuff on the law and taxes? But I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah. So as long as you say, I don't know, you have the choice, you have the agency, you have the power. So I want you guys to say, I don't know. I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to type, I don't know in the chat. Take a deep breath and type, I don't know in the chat, and just start practicing breathing into it, breathing in the power, feeling how you have the choice and you have the agency and you have all the power as long as you are the one saying, I don't know. Don't give away your power to other people by immediately thinking you know something. Keep that power for yourself. With that, lots of I don't knows, exclamation points, repeated. Awesome. You guys feel it? It takes practice and that's okay. Can you guys feel some of the power as we just start to practice saying, I don't know, and feeling how powerful that can be? Yeah, there you go, Jeff. Trouble, I don't know. Absolutely. Right? It's good to take practice. That's okay. In our upcoming course, we practice this over and over and over repeatedly until it's ingrained to us. So can you see how saying I don't know frees you from getting stuck defending some position? It frees you to examine your own fundamental values and work from there. It frees you to do bottom-up thinking. It frees you to listen better and understand why other people think the way they do, because you are no longer claiming that you have all the knowledge and all the answers. Because you don't know, and that's okay. You don't have to know. It's not your job to know. It's fine. You don't have to know. Right? It's freedom. So Anne in New Mexico, who took my course, Ian's improved my quality of life by giving me a new way of interacting with information. And here's the key word: she feels free and empowered to make up her own mind, and she's no longer a victim of the media ecosystem. Why? Because she's free to say, I don't know, and make her mind up from there. Amy in New South Wales, the most important transformation I experienced from Ian's teaching was learning to accept, quote, I don't know. It's amazing how many people who have been through the course say that's the biggest transformation from them, is learning to say, I don't know, and feel powerful in it. All right. So then let's talk about evidence. We're going to start with, I don't know. Now, a lot of us, we tend to draw conclusions based upon very poor quality evidence. And so I'm going to give you one rule of thumb. There are lots of ways, to be clear, lots of ways to make sure you're drawing better conclusions on good evidence. But let's just stick with one rule of thumb today we can talk about. If you want to make sure that you're drawing better conclusions, you can use this rule of thumb. For ordinary claims, it's okay to look at ordinary evidence. And for extraordinary claims, you should demand extraordinary evidence. This is not hard and fast. It's not absolute, but it's just a good rule of thumb to use to make sure you're drawing better conclusions. Ordinary claims, look at ordinary evidence. For extraordinary claims, demand extraordinary evidence. So I'm going to make a following claim. I'm going to make an assertion. I'm going to say this is true. You don't have to believe me. In fact, you shouldn't believe me. You should start with saying, I don't know if it's true, right? I have a puppy at home. I'm asserting to you that's true. And you're allowed to say, I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen your puppy. Right? You don't have to take my word for it. Now, would you say, though, this is a more ordinary claim? Is that fairly ordinary? Is that within our experience in everyday life? More ordinary claim. Bob, yes. Hopefully nobody eats it. Thank you, Bob, for the current issue reference there. Now, why am I calling this an ordinary claim? Why would you guys say that this is a fairly ordinary claim for me to make? All right. What do you guys think?
It's easy to believe, and we know you like dogs.
Yeah, there you go. It's easy to believe, right? Easy to believe, Mark. Why? Because this is something that happens in the real world all the time. People get puppies, and Mark, along with another number of my regulars, you do know I like dogs, and I have dogs, so it is not remotely crazy for me to say I have a puppy at home. In fact, if you know me, you're like, oh Jesus, he got another one. He did it again, right? He went to the SPCA, and if you know me, you know I cannot come home from the SPCA without an animal. That's how you end up with 7 cats and 2 dogs. Yeah. Yeah, Deborah, it is part of our day-to-day life. It's part of our ordinary experience in the world we share, right? Susan, I agree. That's a cute puppy. That is not my puppy. That is a cute puppy. I agree. I do need that one. Don't get me started, Susan. I always tell my friends that if you want me to adopt a cute puppy or kitten, all you have to do is post a picture, right? I'm a sucker. So, given that this is a fairly ordinary claim, what sort of evidence? Again, you don't have to believe me right off the bat. You can say, I don't know if that's true. I'm not calling Ian a liar. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's telling the truth, but I'm just going to start with, I don't know if it's true. What sort of evidence would you want to see as proof that I have a puppy? Yeah, ordinary evidence. Susan, I like to think, I hope so. Yeah. What sort of evidence would you want to see to prove a fairly ordinary claim like this? What do you guys think? Yeah, a picture, right? That's ordinary. Bob says, where is the puppy? It's funny because those of you who know me know that the puppy is often on camera. He's not right now. He's going to make it tricky on me today. Sugar! I don't know where he is. Probably snuggling with my wife. Picture, yeah, furball, yeah, pee on the carpet. Thank God he doesn't pee on the carpet. He came potty trained. I didn't even have to potty train him. He came potty trained. Yeah, see us together. Maybe like his chew toy, stuff like that, right? A testimony. Maybe if my neighbor come on and said, yeah, Ian has a puppy, right? Pictures and video, chew marks on the furniture or his chew toys. That's all fairly ordinary evidence, right? It's an ordinary claim. Now, there's no danger. The reason you can accept ordinary evidence for an ordinary claim is if it turns out I was lying to you about this ordinary claim, there's not really a lot of danger in that, right? Oh, Ian said he had a puppy, and it turns out Ian was lying, and I believed him. Well, so what? Right? There's no real harm to your thinking there or to other areas of your life. All right, now let's try a different claim. So I'm going to say this is true. I'm telling you this is true for sure. There's a real dinosaur on the loose, right? So I live up in Tahoe, so the closest city to me is Reno, biggest little city in the world. There's a real dinosaur on the loose. It's on Virginia Street in Reno on the strip. It's eating the gamblers, and people are running around and screaming. And there's police shooting at it. There's a real dinosaur on the loose in Reno right now, right there in downtown Reno. Telling you that's true. That's my claim. Is that an ordinary claim or an extraordinary claim? What do you guys think? Ordinary or extraordinary?
It was done with AI,
With AI, yeah, there you go.
which is extraordinary.
Yeah, AI is extraordinary. It is. Yeah, you guys see this is Scott. Yeah, I think you've seen that movie, Scott. Some of them are pretty good. This is a more extraordinary claim because it's outside of our everyday experience in our shared reality. Not something you see. So, given the extraordinary nature of the claim, what sort of evidence would you want to see for me to prove this to you? Maybe it's more than pictures and video. I got it. There's a picture right here on your screen of a dinosaur. All right. If you've seen Jurassic Park, you've seen video of dinosaurs rampaging and eating people. Probably not going to want that sort of ordinary evidence. If you're going to believe this, what do you guys need to see? What sort of extraordinary evidence do you need? How would I prove it to you?
Live video with you in it. Well, even that doesn't prove it anymore.
Even right? That's the thing. That's crazy. You're right, Mark. Even that, I could show you a live FaceTime with me and the dinosaur and blood everywhere, and you might say, "Ah, it's AI." I mean, anymore, it's hard to tell.
Oh, I know, I know. If
Yeah,
you just say it enough and enough and enough, if you just lie about it enough, I'll believe it eventually.
yeah. If I say it over and over, I'll just say it over and over. There you go, Billy, across the hood of a police car. Yeah, Scott Conway, the mainstream news, right? Susan, DNA, right? I like that. DNA.
Science. I like science.
Science. Science. We like science around here. So yeah, you might want video from multiple angles and credible sources. Maybe if CNN and Fox and MSNBC all had it on at the same time with their reporters there live, you might think, oh my gosh, maybe this is really happening. Lots of eyewitness testimony, maybe even under oath. Physical samples, like Susan said, DNA. Maybe you have a paleontologist who says, I found the dead dinosaur and I took its tooth and tested it and it was real. Yeah, there you go. Certified Dino Lab. There must be Dino Labs somewhere. There's a lab for everything. So can you see how demanding better quality evidence is going to help you avoid taking on false beliefs? Right? If you demand more evidence, more extraordinary evidence, it's going to help you not believe false things. Can you see how it allows you to, again, go back to your values before making a decision? Start with I don't know and start with your fundamental values. Keep the power for yourself. Bottom up thinking, foundational thinking. Can you see how it frees you to communicate better? Because now rather than arguing with people about whether it's true, you're asking good questions. Instead of saying, shut up, you crazy person, there's no dinosaur, you can say, oh, wow, that's extraordinary. Why do you believe that? Can you help me understand why you believe that? Can you show me the evidence that has convinced you? And maybe I'll be convinced too. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But let's see it. So Brandon in Costa Rica, after he took the course, he said he's better able to analyze a statement or idea in terms of its veracity or fallacy, both my own and others. And you saw right there, he's taking these tools and not just examining what other people say outwards, he's turning them inward, analyzing his own statements. And Jemiah in California, who runs this amazing business, helping people turn their urban yards into like beautiful vegetable gardens. It's crazy what he does. Ian's course opened my eyes to the modes of negotiation in business. I've got more tools to use as a result of taking the course and frequently see opportunities in my daily life. I specifically learned how people use arguments to confuse the public and how I can get ahead of that as a thought leader. Now, our third thing I want to get into is here how we confuse our beliefs with our identities. And we take these beliefs we have, I think X is true or I think X is false, and we tend to identify with it. We let our beliefs become our identities. This creates a problem. Because then when a belief is being challenged, if we identify with the belief, if the belief is challenged, our subconscious mind takes it as an attack upon our identity. And what happens? How do you react subconsciously when you feel like your identity is under attack? Do you react well? Do you react calmly? If your identity is under attack, what happens? Yeah, Scott, you defend, counterattack, punch back, right? Defense. Yeah, if you feel like your identity is under attack, and then you can see how this is a problem because if Jeff, protect, right? You want to protect what's yours, protect ourselves. Totally agree. So when we feel attacked, we go into that defense, that protection mode, that fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, Mark, shut down. You're right. A lot of us just shut down and say screw it. Mhm. So let's give some examples here. Let's see if we can all see the difference in these statements. We talk about beliefs and ideas. Here's a belief statement. Right? You guys remember, if you remember your American history, the Federalist Party was one of the first political parties in the United States, right? George Washington's party. So here's more of a belief-oriented statement. I agree with most of the policies of the Federalist Party. Okay, great. You mostly agree with that party. Super. Here's an identity statement. I am a Federalist. Now, do you guys see the difference in those statements? Do you feel the difference in those statements? Which one is heavier? Which of those statements, the belief statement or the identity statement, which one is heavier? Which one is dense and sticky and heavy and sits on you? Yeah, you guys all see that, right? The identity statement. So much heavier, so much more dense, so sticky. Because as long as we stick with the belief statement, you can change your mind. But that identity statement, I am a Federalist, now what happens? If you identify as a Federalist and then somebody says, I think the Federalists are wrong on tax policy, where does your brain go? Mark just freaked out right there on camera. No way. Yeah.
That means you're saying I'm wrong. If that's wrong, then
Yeah. Yeah. If you're saying that's
A
wrong,
will
that's
B
saying
and B
that
will
you're wrong.
C.
Yeah. It's an attack on you personally. Yeah, Mark, I am are very powerful words. And we should be careful because when you say I am, you're speaking something into existence. And sometimes that's good. So if you want to say I am enough, I am lovable, I am a good person, I am worthy, I am deserving, those are powerful statements. On the other hand, I am a Republican, I am a Democrat, I am a Green Party, I'm a Libertarian. Those can be tricky, right? You're speaking things into existence when you say I am. Let's try another one. So here's a belief statement. I think equality is better for society. Yeah, Jeff, the power of I am. You see it. You do. Yeah. So belief statement. I think equality is better for society. Great. A lot of us might agree with that. That's fine. Identity. I am an equality activist. Again, which of these statements, the belief or identity, which statement is heavier? Which one is denser? Which one is stickier? Which one is harder to get out from under? If you wanted to. You guys feel that? Feel the weight of the identity statement? Yeah, you guys see it. So can you see how if we question our identities, oops, typo in the title there, my bad. Always finding Scott, yeah. Can we see how freeing our identities from our beliefs can help us be less defensive? Help us be more open-minded. Once again, frees us for bottom-up thinking, starting with our values rather than some belief or position we hold. Right? I want us to start with that foundation, with our values, how we show up in the world. So Ruth in Switzerland took the course last year. I love how the course was about using critical thinking to directly and consciously improve our communication with others, but even more, our understanding of ourselves and our own blind spots that heavily influence how we see the world. Again, we teach a lot of different thinking and communication skills, but we are always stressing in the course, rather than just taking all these skills and tools and turning them outwards to others, we need to turn them inward first. If you're not willing to use that hammer and nail on yourself, you shouldn't be using it with other people. These are just tools that we teach. You have to be able to use them with yourself. So today we talked about the power of saying, I don't know, how we can love to say, I don't know, and the power of that. We talked about once we start with saying, I don't know, how do we then make up our mind only after finding good quality, strong evidence for it? And then we talk about stripping away our identities from our beliefs, because if our beliefs define us, then we're stuck. If you say, I believe X is true, and you identify with that belief, then anytime the proposition is challenged, you immediately go to protective defensive mode. You can't change your mind at that point. Your subconscious mind will not let you change your mind, no matter how wrong you might be, because it hurts too much. So why should we keep learning and practicing these things? And what are the real problems we can address with this sort of bottom-up values-based thinking? And again, I want to stress this notion of thinking in the right direction. So what I call top-down thinking, thinking from the top down means we start with our position on an issue. I think X is true, or I think these people are right. And then we stick with that position, and then we justify it. And we go to great lengths to justify it because we want to feel right. Doesn't it feel better to be right? Does it feel good to be wrong? Doesn't feel good to be wrong. Nobody likes feeling wrong. Right? So that's that top-down thinking, starting with the position and sticking with it, no matter what. On the other hand, bottom-up thinking, which is what we teach, thinking from the bottom up means starting with your fundamental values and deciding what you want to accomplish in the world and how you want to show up with the world, and then choosing the positions that serve those goals. That's bottom-up thinking. Which one do you guys think is more useful in the long run in your life? Top-down thinking or bottom-up thinking? Which one's more useful in the long run? Mark says bottom up. Bottoms up. Bottom up.
It's just obvious that can't be better.
Right. Yeah. See? Yeah, we know it intuitively, right? That's why we do thumbs up and thumbs down. We want the bottom up thinking. So that bottom up thinking solves a lot of real world problems, our inability to discuss important societal issues with one another, right? We're arguing and fighting because we're thinking top down. We're out of alignment with our values because we're thinking top down instead of bottom up. We're easily manipulated and we take on false beliefs, again, because we're thinking top down when we should be thinking bottom up. Our strained relationships, making bad business decisions, not making sense of the world, not being able to communicate. These are all the result of top-down thinking. And we can turn it around if we start with the bottom-up thinking, starting with our foundational fundamental values first, deciding who we want to be and how we want to show up to the world and what goal are we trying to achieve, and think from that foundation up. Bob Washington, you're right. Top down becomes your identity, right? And even just despair, right? You guys ever feel like, oh my God, it's too nuts, right? It's okay. It's normal if you feel a little despair. If you think, this is too crazy, I can't take it, I'm just going to stock up on food and water and firewood and let the world go to hell. That's tempting, right? I get it. I live in the mountains on a dead end street. So, I get it. It's no accident that I live somewhere where we have lots of fresh water and firewood, no matter what. Because if you have fresh water and firewood, everything else you can figure out. Yeah, Susan, some days you want to go off the grid. I get it. That's why I don't mind the winter here. Some days we get 10 feet of snow and we're off the grid for a couple days. And God, it's a relief to be off the grid when we're snowed in, quite frankly, right? Because it's quiet. Today's world is noisy. And when we get 10 feet of snow and the electricity and internet goes down, it's so quiet. And it's such a relief to feel that quiet. We've been wasting our energy. Think of the energy we waste when we're not using that bottom-up thinking and being deliberate about our values. Think of the wasted energy when we're not showing up authentically, or when relationships deteriorate because we can't communicate and understand one another. What do you guys think? Is it exhausting to have to pretend to be something you're not and fit in other people's boxes? Is that exhausting? I think it's exhausting, right? I don't have the energy for that anymore. It's just too exhausting. Who wants to fit in other people's boxes and be inauthentic? Yeah, Kristen, yes. What do you guys get? It's exhausting. Think of the wasted time. We're agonizing over decisions because we're not able to analyze things quickly and logically with good sound arguments. We're making avoidable mistakes. We're believing false things that now we have to correct all that. We have to correct the mistakes. We have to correct the false beliefs. When we're taking a lot actions that are not in alignment. Mark, yeah, getting out of your own box. I tell you, Mark, it can be hard when other people put us in a box. And you're right. It's even harder if we put ourselves in our own box, isn't it? Oh boy. It's hard to get out of our own box, right? This is why our course, we call it Life's Problems Made Easy, Awaken Your Genius Through Critical Thinking, because we had a lot of different titles for this course at first. We settled on this one after I kept asking all the people who went through it, what problems did you solve? And they started listing literally every problem in life that they were able to solve with this one holistic mode of thought. So this is going to be a 10-week course. Used to be a 6-week course. We've expanded to 10 this year. Mind crabs. Yeah, Bob, the mind crabs pulling you back in, right? So it's 10 weeks because we decided we really want to concentrate on the community formation and diving deep and taking much more time to absorb the material. We don't want to be rushed through it. So we're going to rewire our brains for values-based bottom-up thinking. We're going to challenge ourselves. We're going to question, what do we know and what do we believe and why do we know it and why do we believe it? And how can we start changing that knowledge and beliefs? We're going to spend a lot of time learning how powerful it can be to say, I don't know, and practicing that over and over and over. We're going to learn how to both build and recognize powerful arguments, so we're not manipulated, right? We do get into some things like traditional logic and skepticism and evaluation of evidence. That's all in there. But logic is just a hammer. Logic is a nice hammer to have if you know traditional logic, just like a hammer is great to have. But if you don't know how to use a hammer, are you more likely to build something with it or ruin something with it? Right? So we're going to talk about logic, but you're going to see that logic is just a tool, no different than a hammer. And if you don't know how to use it and how to build things with it, you're more likely to end up destroying things with it. Oh, I love that. Bob Parks. Yeah. Our drunk monkey. It's funny. We have a Thai restaurant here in town called the Drunken Monkey. Great food. Yeah. Scott, yeah, you're right. A logic with a bad premise does more harm than good. You're right, right? Just like a hammer. If you have a hammer with a bad premise, you're just going to smash things. That doesn't help anybody, right? We're going to rid ourselves of the common reasoning errors and mistakes that we all make because of our fear-based brain deep down in there from our ancestors. We're going to start demanding high quality evidence. We're going to talk a lot. We're going to spend a couple of weeks talking about what is good quality evidence versus bad quality evidence and what should you accept or not accept. And then turning it inwards, right? These tools, I don't want you using critical thinking skills and all this value-based thinking. Don't turn it outward if you're not willing to turn it inward first. You have to be willing to turn inward first and examine yourself. Otherwise, it does you no good. You have to figure out what is your own blind spot, what is your own bias, so you can be a better thinker no matter what the context. We're going to do a lot of listening, active listening techniques, including a method called street epistemology, which is becoming more popular out there. Amazing active listening techniques. All of this makes sense of a world that's gone nuts. And this, again, we weren't going to offer this course again this year. We typically run it 1 or twice a year. We weren't going to do it this year. We had other things happening, and then we realized the world's too nuts. We have to do it. So thank you to a number of my friends who convinced my wife and I that we really needed to run the course again this year. I'm glad we're doing it now. And community. We do all this in communities. But those of you who have been to my classes on law and taxes and everything, you know we do everything in community around here. It's so much better in community. That's the whole point. Scott, yes. Scott, you don't have to listen. I can't make you. Nobody's going to die if you don't. But Scott is a great listener. I can tell you guys. That's one reason I love Scott, and I'm glad he's here today. Scott is an amazing listener. We're going to be deliberate about choosing our values, because again, that's the whole point, this bottom-up thinking, using these tools to advance our values and be authentic. Use our time more efficiently to make faster and better decisions and repair our relationships. You're going to be amazed at how these skill sets can help you repair relationships, right? So how is this instruction different from a lot of other thinking courses? We teach thinking as a tool for self-improvement and relationship building. We do not just teach hard logic, hard, cold mathematical logic. We do talk about some cold mathematical logic, but again, only as one tool you can use, because logic is not the source of truth in the universe. Logic is one pathway to one kind of truth in the universe. And so we're going to talk about this value-based thinking as an art form, not like a science. We emphasize the communication and listening, and we really try hard, all of us who work on this program, to keep our own agendas out of it. I'm not saying we don't have our own agendas. We are biased and we have opinions like everybody else, but we do work hard to keep our own biases out to the extent that is possible, because we want to empower you to take action based upon your values. It's a very values-based bottom-up approach. So it's a lot to chew on. You get video slides, worksheets, and exercises. You get the weekly Q&A calls. Again, it used to be 6 weeks. We've expanded it to 10 weeks this year to take us through the fall, where we highlight the important points, lots of coaching and Q&A time. We tend to stay on the calls as long as it takes to get all the questions answered. And most importantly, safe space community, non-judgmental. If you want to come in and yell at people who disagree with you, this is the wrong course for you. You will be kicked out. Just so you know, this is not where you come yell at people and try to convince them that you're right and they're wrong. If you need that, if you need a place to yell at people, you can go on Facebook and do that to your heart's content, and you can enjoy the high blood pressure and all the anger and the lack of sleep it's causing you. On the other hand, if you want community, if you're okay with a community of diverse people with diverse opinions who disagree with you, where we talk respectfully and we work together on common goals and values, then this is an awesome place, and you're absolutely more than welcome. So when you join, you get instant access to, there's 20 online instruction videos that you can go through at your own pace, although we will be kind of going through them over the 10 weeks. At least 10 live Q&A calls over the 10 weeks. There are certainly going to be extra bonus calls. I usually have something called a worksheet workshop where we go through some of the worksheets together. There's going to be a welcome call once we get a critical mass signed up over the next week, a welcome and intro kind of an orientation call. And if I get enough people from different time zones, we'll throw in bonus calls as well. Yeah, Bob, life-changing. Bob has been through the course, right? Bob Washington. I always remember Bob Washington because he lives in Washington. Makes it easy for me. So you don't have to believe me. I'm making a lot of strong claims about the course, and you're allowed to say, I don't know, Ian, is that true? Do you really get all this out of it? Well, I've tried to sprinkle in some evidence for you. I'm making some big claims, so I've tried to sprinkle in evidence throughout this webinar, testimonials from people who have been through the course before. Here's some more. Mark, who runs a restaurant and is a musician in Italy. The modules are fantastic. Ian's approach to blending the heartfelt with the hard logic is phenomenally useful and promising for personal and societal growth. And Anne in Rhode Island. In fact, I'm pretty sure a couple of you on this call know Anne in Rhode Island. One of the best healers in the world, as far as I'm concerned, an amazing sales teacher. I loved Ian's approach to this program, the deep dive on how logic and illogic shows up constantly in our lives, and the hardwiring of our brains was illuminating. I loved how the course was really about directly and consciously improving our communication with others, but even more our understanding of ourselves. Like I said, we have to turn these tools inward before we turn them outward. And she said, I recommend this program highly to anyone who wants a powerful and eye-opening tools to better understand themselves and help their clients live better lives. So think about, what is it worth to you? Is it valuable to feel how powerful and freeing it can be to say, I don't know? Is it valuable to say, I can analyze things better and faster? I'm not wasting time with errors and false beliefs. Is it valuable to say, I can understand my true values and I can use this bottom-up foundational values-based thinking and I can be authentic? Is it valuable to deepen relationships, including repairing relationships with our spouses, children, and loved ones? And to form community. Again, we always do this in community. Everything I do, those of you who have been to my other courses on other subjects, you know, everything I do is done in community, right? We don't do this, we don't isolate, we don't get in a bubble. We do it in a diverse community together. That's always the effort I make on this. On the other hand, what would it cost to feel like you're stuck in your beliefs? And like, you have to have an opinion on everything automatically. There's a cost to that. There's a real cost that results from top-down thinking that leaves us stuck without that coherent mode of thought. There's an emotional cost for sure, feeling like an imposter when we're trying to fit in other people's boxes and not being authentic. There's a cost to watching our relationships deteriorate. There's a cost to making bad business decisions. It's costing us clients. It's costing us money. This is sort of one of those courses that, if it helps you make better business decisions, pays for itself in terms of the increased help you do in the world and the increased clients you bring in. So the everyday price for this course in the past has been $19.97. The Q&A calls are going to start over the next week and a half. I saw another webinar tomorrow, a couple more next week. So once we get everybody in, we're going to start getting that schedule together and get it out there, do a welcome orientation and get going. But I am doing a special fall discount again, because thank you again to all the friends of mine and my wife's who told us, you guys have to run this course again this year, even if we hadn't planned to. In fact, someone told me I had a moral obligation to run this course. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. And we want to make it accessible. So for this launch this fall, it's basically half price, $9.97 or 3 payments of $367. This is the lowest price it will be offered at from here on out. Yeah, Scott, you're right. Yeah, before the election, right? And we kind of timed it so it takes us through election season, because right now it's important that we can all have community and talk about this stuff with compassion and respect for one another. And I do want to thank you. I know a couple of you in here are already in the course. I see some names who are already signed up and some nodding heads, and I'm very grateful to those of you who are already in it and already signed up, and that's awesome. Yeah, Mark's in. Scott, maybe not blowing up our families for Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? I mean, it's become a joke in society, family Thanksgiving and Christmas, and everybody fighting, right? And it's a joke because it is kind of funny, but also, why are things funny? Things are funny because they're true. True things are funny. And we laugh because we don't know how to respond to it emotionally, because it hurts to think of the disconnection. And so we respond with humor, which is natural and normal and okay, right? There's nothing wrong with responding to an uncomfortable situation with humor. That's a perfectly normal defense mechanism. At the same time, what if we didn't have to joke about family Thanksgiving? Because family Thanksgiving, instead of an opportunity to yell at Uncle Billy, sorry, Billy, I'm always making fun of Billy, right? Instead of having to yell at Uncle Billy or yell at Uncle Scott, what if we could get along with Uncle Billy and get along with Uncle Scott? Wouldn't we like that better? I'd like that better myself. All right. So yeah, next year the price will be going back up, but I just decided during election season, it's basically half price. So this will be the lowest price going forward at this point. So you can go to awakenmygenius.com. Oops. Hang on. All right. Thanks, Billy. Billy's off to Johns Hopkins today. Very good. Awakenmygenius.com, and I can also grab, just in case that doesn't work on some of your browsers, let me grab a direct clickable link. Oops, which I had, but I lost. Where did it go?
There it is.
All right. Oh, Scott already had it. Thank you. Very good, Scott. I appreciate that. Thanks for the direct link. Scott grabbed it quicker than I did. He beat me to the punch. Very good. So yeah, there's a clickable link in case the other one doesn't resolve properly, depending on your browser settings. But happy to answer any questions for you guys. Yes, Bob, you will get the free gift. Oh, Scott, I appreciate that very much. A lot of mutual respect between Scott and I. So Scott, I feel the same. Thank you, my brother. Glad you're here. So, all right, let me grab the other link. So I did say that those of you who stuck around got a free thing. So here's the free gift for everybody who could stick around. It's about how to be a positive influence on negative people. And it's I tend to think of not negative people, right? Because we can all, some of us, we're all positive and negative at different times, right? But when you're around someone who is negative feeling in a negative state of mind, it's a great skill set to have a few steps on how to be a positive influence on them, right? You don't have to avoid them. You don't have to be an asshole about it. You don't have to make it spiral out of control, which is all easy. Maybe we could all just take a deep breath and try to be cool, right? Sometimes I'm in a negative state of mind because I'm a human being too. And I appreciate it when the people around me try to lift me up a little bit. You know, so there you go. Deborah, you're welcome. Absolutely. Any questions from anybody? Anything we talked about today? Happy to stick around for a few minutes if anybody has questions.
When you said everybody just be cool, I was thinking about Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. If they're
Yes.
like, everybody chill.
Everybody chill. Yeah. The Governor. Absolutely. We just watched all the Terminator movies, so I have a different Arnold in my head right now. Yeah. I got to see what was it, a few weeks back, the Terminator was really re-released on the big screen. Actually, I told you that, Mark, right? Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. Seeing the original Terminator on the big screen, so great.
It's so funny that we're like in a place where I can't drive a whole 30 minutes away now unless it's like a very special movie. Although I love that movie, anything more than 10-15 minute drive is just too far.
Yeah. Well, I get you. I get you. That's what, so the closest theater to us is about 45 minutes away, which is why we hop. We'll go see 3 movies at a time. If I'm driving that far, I'm gonna see 3 movies and spend the day there. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Love you guys. So glad you were here today. Hope to see you
Thanks
soon.
for fulfilling on your moral obligation to share.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Susan, I'll be back. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.